going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and let's talk Jets. But before we do that, major shout out to the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They win back-to-back Super Bowls by beating the Niners in overtime, 25-22. Kudos to the Niners and their fans. They had a great season, but right now you ran into a buzzsaw, man. You ran into today's NFL version of Michael Jordan, and that's why I said in my prediction videos, it's hard for me to bet against Patrick Mahomes. We are looking at a special player, and you kind of thought that if this game went into overtime, regardless of whether the Niners had the ball or not, they would have needed to score a touchdown to put the pressure on Mahomes. When they kicked that field goal, I think everybody knew at that point in time that there was no way that the Niners were going to win that game. Everybody kind of knew that Mahomes was going to drive down the field and get that touchdown and win it, man. And it sucks because, again, the Niners had an excellent season. But, kudos to Andy Reid, Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chiefs fans, Taylor Swift. I mean, they're coming back. Andy Reid announced that he's coming back next year to try to do a three-peat, So let's see. Let's see what happens. Hopefully my Jets will be the team that can knock them off with Aaron Rodgers. But we're going to have to make a lot of moves in the offseason in order for us to get, on that level. First, we have to be able to address key positions, wide receiver, offensive line, backup quarterback. But if we're able to do that, who knows? I mean, we got a good young defense. Aaron Rodgers is coming back, although the clock is ticking. He'll be 41 years old next year, so be vital. This is a big, big offseason for the Jets. And now that, the Super Bowl is over, we can finally concentrate on what the Jets are going to potentially do both in pro free agency and in the draft. I don't really like to get into the draft right now because I don't think that it takes shape, until free agency, is upon us, because I think that a lot of teams are going to be looking to fill some holes. And depending on what holes they fill, then, there may be a different plan of attack come draft at the end of April. So we'll get into some draft stuff later on down the road. But what I really want to talk about right now is free agency, right? Like I just mentioned, the Jets are going to be looking at wide receiver. They're going to be looking at O-line. They're going to be looking at backup quarterback. Now, the O-line, I think they're going to try to address in the draft. They have 5 picks. I don't know if the Jets are going to trade back to try to recoup a second rounder. It all depends on who's there. But if they stand put at 10, I think they're going to take the best available tackle that falls to them. I don't see them taking a wide receiver there. So I think that they address wide receiver in free agency. And there's a lot of good guys out there, depending on if they're made available, right, and they're not franchised. I think there's a lot of good guys out there that the Jets could potentially take a look at. Some young guys with some talent. However, price tag, right? That's going to also make a difference on who the Jets go after. Who knows if they try to go big or if they try to go bargain basement, right? For a low-end deal, low risk, high reward. I don't know. But anyway, I was thinking about that. I'm going to make separate videos, but this one is going to be my top 5 wide receiver free agent targets that I would like the Jets to take a peek at. And again, no particular order. And I'm not going to talk about salary either. We're going to play hypotheticals with this list. So if these guys are made available, if these guys aren't franchised, and if these guys, let's say, are affordable, I think either one of these 5 guys will be a perfect fit opposite Garrett Wilson on the other end of the field. And I'm going to start with my favorite wide receiver that I believe the Jets should do everything possible to try to go after, and that is T. Higgins, the wide receiver from the Bengals. And the reason why I love this kid, and I've liked him since he came out of Clemson, but, he's only been in the league for 4 years. He's 25 years old. He's 6'4", 219 pounds. He's a big target, a guy who stretches the field and can go up there and get a jump ball. How valuable would that be in the red zone with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers throwing the football? A team that was anemic in the red zone. I think we were dead last in red zone efficiency. These are the type of guys that you should target. He's the right age, the right size, and for the most part, he's put up some nice numbers opposite Jamar Chase as the number 2 receiver on the Bengals. And that's what we need, right? We need a good, viable number 2 receiver opposite Garrett Wilson. Let's take a peek at these stats. Barring 2023, he did have some injuries. He missed about 4 games, only had 42 catches and 5 touchdowns. But look at what he did in 2021. 14 games, 74 catches, 1,091 yards receiving, and 6 touchdowns In 2022, 16 games, again, another 74 catches, 1,029 yards receiving, and seven touchdowns. And again, this is the number 2 receiver opposite Jamar Chase. He's only fumbled 2 times in 4 years. So again, a guy for the most part that's going to go up there, hold on to the football. He's tough. A guy that we need desperately on the other end that's going to provide that vertical threat to stretch the field. I think that, the rumors out there is that the Bengals may look to possibly franchise tag him. But again, hypotheticals. If he hits the open market, I think the Jets should pounce on it. The second guy I think the Jets should take a peek at, another young guy with a lot of promise. I don't know if the Colts will look to allow him to leave, but if they do, hypotheticals, Michael Pittman Jr. I think would be an excellent number 2 opposite Garrett Wilson. Again, another young guy, only been in the league for 4 years, 6'4", 223 pounds. He has size, and he is a possession receiver. He's 26 years old, out of USC. In 62 games that he started, he has 336 catches, 3,662 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And look at what he did last year with Gardner Minshew throwing him the football, 109 catches, a breakout season, 1,152 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And that's not counting what he did the 2 seasons prior. I mean, in 2021, he had 88 catches and 6 touchdowns. 2022, 99 catches and 4 touchdowns. So he's gotten better and better as the years have gone by. Only four years in the league. He's a baby. He'd be the perfect fit opposite Garrett Wilson. But again, I don't know if the Colts are going to be looking to give up on this type of receiving talent. They're going to probably look to do whatever it takes to sign him. But if he becomes available, the Jets need to pounce on that. The third guy that I would love the Jets to take a peek at, and this is a guy that was rumored that the Jets were possibly looking to trade for last season. He's a little bit on the older end, right? He isn't as young as these other guys that I just talked about, but Mike Evans from the Bucs is an absolute beast. I mean, 6'5". Not only is he a big target, but he's tough. For the most part, he's durable, and he just plays the receiver mean. And that's the way I love my wide receivers to play. I want them to play with an attitude, with some swagger. And to me, he does that. 6'5", 231 pounds. He's been in the league for 10 years. He did miss 1 full season in 2019 due to injury. Other than that, he's been very, very durable for the entire part of his career. In fact, look at these stats. In 141 games, he has 695 catches, 10,523 yards receiving, 86 touchdowns. He also has a Super Bowl ring. That's Hall of Fame resume right there. And he's not done. I mean, at 30 years old, I believe he still has at least about 3 or 4 good, solid Pro Bowl caliber seasons left in the tank. I mean, if you look at him, he looks like he keeps himself in great shape. And the most impressive part about his game is that he's been consistent since he came into the league. Every year that he's played, he's had over 1,000 yards receiving. 5 seasons, he's had 12 touchdowns or more. Last year, he had 13 touchdowns with Baker Mayfield. He's only fumbled 4 times in 9 full seasons. I mean, he's a pretty short-handed receiver. Like I said, he's tough. He can go up. He can get the football. What a 1-2 combination with him and Garrett Wilson on each side. The thing about Mike Evans, again, I don't know if they're going to look to franchise him, but I think that he's probably going to look to go somewhere else and get paid. He's played his entire career with the Buccaneers. He's won a Super Bowl there. I think he's going to try to maximize. This is probably more than likely his last attempt at a big payday. Perhaps he looks at something along the lines of what Devontae Adams signed when he signed with the Raiders and went over there. 3 years, $67, $68 million. If that's the case, I think the price tag will be too high for the Jets. But man, if they can find a way to get that done, what a weapon he'll be opposite Garrett Wilson. I'd love to see him in a Jet uniform. Fourth receiver that I think the Jets should take a peek at if he's available is Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver from the Jaguars. He's a little bit smaller than some of the other guys that we talked about, but he plays bigger than his size. He's 6'1", 190 pounds. He's been in the league for 5 seasons. He's 29 years old, so he's a year younger than Mike Evans. He comes out of Alabama. Let's not forget, he did miss the entire 2022 season because he was suspended for gambling, but I think he had a great comeback year last year. I mean, last year, 17 games. He played in every single game. He has 76 catches for 1,016 yards and 8 touchdowns, with Trevor Lawrence throwing him the football. His best season, though, was with the Falcons, and that was in 2020, where he played in 15 games. He had 90 catches, 1,374 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Again, a guy who I think would complement Garrett Wilson very well on the opposite end. He runs good routes, and he's a tough guy for his size. He has good hands. But the only thing about him is, again, the injuries, right? He's had 3 years where he's played 10 games or less. So that's a little bit concerning. But last year, he was durable, played every single game. I think that he would be a good pickup if the Jets decide to go that route. So at number 5, I think this pick may shock a few Jet fans. But hear me out, because I went in a different direction with this. I looked at what I believe this kid is capable of doing, obviously compared to what he's done so far. And the guy that I would like the Jets to take a peek at, if he's available, is the wide receiver from the Bears, Darnell Mooney. He's 5'11", 174 pounds. He's been in the league for 4 years. He's only 26 years old. He comes out of Tulane. In his career, he hasn't put up great stats. He did have one really good season, though. And that's where I'm going with this thing. But in 49 games that he started, he only has 213 catches, 2,593 yards, and 11 touchdowns. His best year was in 2021. He had 81 catches, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 4 touchdowns. He's had some injuries, but the biggest thing with him is the offense that he's played in. It's no secret that the Bears are usually going to rank on the lower end in passing offense and passing efficiency, right? And I think he suffers because of that. But if you look at his scouting report and what he's worth potentially from a salary standpoint, I think that he may be a good bargain. I think there's a lot of upside there. Scouting report on him, and this is why I think he's an attractive pickup for the Jets to potentially look at, is he creates separation, not just on intermediate plays, but on deep routes. And that's something the Jets desperately need. For years, we've had this conversation during recaps that these receivers just can't get separation other than Garrett Wilson. This guy does that well. I think that he would be a perfect complement opposite the other side. And that's only if you can't get some of these other, bigger name guys. I mean, I think that he can be the ultimate buy low, low risk, high reward type of guy. Again, he's only 26 years old. With a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football, you got to think that the Jets are going to go vertical. And his skill set, I think that he could potentially have a breakout year for the Jets. So I think that he would be an interesting one. And I like him. I like his game. If you really study his game, I think he does a lot of good things that would be extremely, extremely helpful for this type of offense. Now, if the Jets can't get any of those guys that I just mentioned, my top 5, there are some other guys out there that might be worth a peek. You got Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown from the Cardinals. Guy with speed, vertical threat. You got Gabe Davis from the Bills. He's got some talent, a lot of upside, but again, a guy that tends to disappear in certain games. Odell Beckham, let's not forget Odell Beckham. He was almost a Jet last year. If it wasn't for that last-minute offer that the Ravens made, he would have been in the green and white. Don't think it would have been a good thing playing on this offense. But Aaron Rodgers is coming back. The Jets may want to revisit that. He may want to revisit that. Interesting. Curtis Samuel from the Commanders. Pretty decent career. I think, again, there's some untapped potential there. Then you got a couple veterans, one of them namely Michael Thomas from the Saints. He put up some big numbers for years, but again, the last 3 seasons have been injury-riddled. The Saints do have some young talent at wide receiver. Maybe they decide to go in another direction, and maybe Michael Thomas is looking for a destination if he's healthy. I think he would be, it might be for the right price. Maybe he might be a good veteran pickup opposite Garrett Wilson. So again, those are some other names that I want to throw out there, but those are my top 5. Again, hypothetical, if they're all available and the price is right, I would want the Jets to take a peek at any one of those 5, no particular order. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. We just need help at receiver, and I think any one of those guys will be the perfect number 2 to complement Garrett Wilson on the other side of the field. You got to remember, the Jets have to strike now. The clock is ticking. Aaron Rodgers will be 41 years old next December. He's coming off a major injury. We got to surround him with as much talent as possible that gives us the best opportunity to go in there and make a run at a playoff spot. I think once we get in, if we're healthy and our defense plays the same way they played this year for the majority of the part, I think the Jets can turn this thing around and we can be a dangerous team come playoff time. But we'll see. You never know with the Jets. Anyhow, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Are there any other receivers that you will potentially take a peek at? I'd love to hear what everybody has to say. So definitely drop a line. And if you're new to watching my videos, as always, please subscribe. This is how we do in the hangout spot. So make sure you are along for the ride. Once you subscribe, you are family. But at the end of the day, we got some more videos coming out, so be on the lookout. I'm going to give my list of offensive linemen that I think the Jets should take a peek at in free agency and backup quarterbacks as well, because all three of these positions are positions of need. So be on the lookout for those. And as always, I appreciate your support. This is your boy Johnny, signing out from the Hangout Spot, and I'll talk to everybody soon.